Hello, thank you for letting me join you on this wonderful day. Today we're going to be learning how to make homemade basic pasta. This is a super simple recipe, it's really cheap to do, and it's super fun to make. It gives you the experience of cooking without all that crazy prices. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can see future recipes and future videos. And then if you like the video, that's an easy way to come back to it in the future. So make sure to like the video and then comment down below about how much fun you had while making this. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. For this recipe, we're gonna start out with half a cup of flour. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put that right in the center of our table. We might be using more, but this is a good just kind of to start out. And we're gonna kind of form a bowl or a well with the flour. And then in that, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Just like that. And then we're gonna crack 1 egg inside of it. And this is to make 1 serving of pasta. So if you're gonna make more servings, you just use however many eggs you want there to be servings of pasta. So it's a pretty easy formula to do. And with the fancier pastas and things like that, then you'll get into where you use mainly egg yolks and things like that. But I'm just more focusing on creating a cheap pasta instead of a higher quality. Also, I'm using all-purpose flour just because that's the most universal. But if you really wanted to make some good pasta, you could get into semolina flour. Will make a really good, and I'll probably make another video on that of more of a gourmet pasta. So then, as you can see, once it kind of started coming together, I just get the bench scraper and just kind of start throwing it around just like that, folding it on top of each other, and we're just going to knead that very simply. Also with this, you can roll it out with a rolling pin or using a pasta maker. I have a pasta maker, but it can be done with a rolling pin. I used to do that all the time. But if you're planning on making pasta pretty frequently, I would definitely recommend getting a pasta maker. So as you can see, it's starting to come together a little bit now. Just like that. All right, and I'm gonna add a little bit more flour. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of crazy how different flour will, or how some batches will require more, some will require less. You really won't know until you start making it. That's one reason that I really like dough, is actually because every single batch is going to be different. And it's all done by feel. That's why I like it a lot. All right, this is getting pretty good looking once it's not super sticky. And then what I kind of do is I just start squeezing it in my hand, just like this. Just incorporate all this flour. And we're really just going to knead this for about 5 minutes. Yeah, so I won't record the entire process, but yeah, and the whole time that you're doing it, you want to make sure that you're getting all that flour. Unless, of course, you have too much flour. So like right now, you can see with mine, it will cave in and it has a slight bounce back. And it's not really sticking to my fingers. And as we knead it, it will get more elasticy and a little bit stickier. So actually, yeah, it's got enough flour. So then we can go ahead and knead that. With one batch, it's a little bit harder to knead on a table. But if you're making more, then it's easier to knead it like that. But with just one batch, you can just do it in your hand. All right, so I'm just gonna knead this for a few more minutes and then I will resume the video then. So it's starting to get very elasticy. You can see it feels like a Play-Doh. And the more that you make it, the more that you'll naturally just get better at being able to feel it out. So yeah, so it's really, yeah, it really actually feels exactly like Play-Doh. So what you're gonna do once it gets to that level is we're gonna put it in a bag or saran wrap. I use just these fold top bags, just like that. And then we can put it in the refrigerator. And so minimum, you want to put it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes because you want to let the gluten have time to relax and rest, which if you're doing it with a rolling pin, will come in real handy. That way it's not as tough to work with it. And you can really, I've done it before where I've made pasta in the morning. I've prepared all the dough in the morning, and then that night I used it. So I left it in there for probably about 10 hours. So, I mean, really, you can leave it in there. I probably wouldn't leave it more than a day, but you can leave it for probably anywhere from 30 minutes to 10 to 12 hours. So I'll go ahead and let this rest, and I will see y'all in a bit. So before we get started on this next step, you'll want to get your water going, just since normally it will take a little while to boil. And so as you can see here, I've got my pasta maker. This dough is actually a different batch. I recorded this entire segment and then realized that the camera wasn't recording. So that's why there's flour already out. So I just whipped up this new batch. So it's not gonna be as elasticy or as good, but I did let my dough rest for an hour, and it was it was a very good batch actually. I was disappointed that it didn't work. So what we're gonna do is with the pasta maker, mine, it starts on a 0. But yours may start at a 7. One of my friends, his starts on a 7 and he goes down to 0. Mine starts at 0 and it actually goes up to 9. And you'll just want to add some flour to it. If you are using a rolling pin, you can still follow along, and I'll show you how you can cut your dough. If you are rolling it out with a rolling pin, it's just a little bit harder, but I did it for several years before I got this machine. And even sometimes when I'm visiting friends and we want to make pasta, I'll still use a rolling pin. Pasta is actually, I love making it with people because it can be done as a group effort because there's so many steps and so many things that need to be done. It's not hard for one person to do, but it's really fun. So like, for instance, instead of actually meeting people for coffee, sometimes I'll invite them over and we'll make pasta together. So as you can see, we've got a beautiful length of pasta, which I'm still gonna put it through 2 more times. I'm just gonna cut it to make it a little bit easier to manage. There we go. All right, so I'm doing it all the way to a 7, but again, depending on your pasta maker, it might be different. So it really, and also it depends on what kind of noodles you're making. I am gonna be making a kind of like a fettuccine noodle. And so I like that thicker, the thick cut. And so for me personally, I like it done on a 7, but maybe, you know, you have a different number that you like. All right, so there we go. There's the first batch done. Now I'll quickly just do this one right here. And then also it depends on what kind of sauce you're gonna be using. Today, just for the sake of ease and price, I'm just gonna be putting the noodles with butter and some basil pesto. That's one of my favorite basic sauces to do. You can also grate some cheese on there, and it's pretty good. All right, so we've got our 2 strands of pasta, just like that. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a nice coating of flour over it. And first I'll show you how to cut the pasta if you are using a pasta maker. All right. And pasta is pretty forgiving as far as doughs go, due to the fact that if you do make a mistake, you can simply just roll it back up or fold it back up and stick it through the machine again. If you are hand rolling it and you make mistakes, you will need to let the dough rest so it will get soft again. So I'm gonna be using this wider cut. So you just put it on just like that. And move the crank over. And you can see this will produce some beautiful noodles. There we go. I love the look of fresh pasta noodles, just like that. All right, and so then this one, we're gonna do similarly. We're gonna cover it with flour. See, it's already kind of starting to stick. If it folds over, with this method, you really want to make sure that it's not going to stick whenever you're cutting it with a knife. Because the best way to get even noodles is we're gonna cut it, we're gonna roll it up and then cut it. So you can see here, we're gonna roll it like this, and you want it to be tight. You don't want it to be loose, but then at the same time, you don't want to smush it together. So it kind of takes practice of getting it really well. Because yeah, once again, you don't want it to be loose, but you don't want to smush it. Otherwise, it will be a nightmare to get it undone. So once we have our pasta rolled like that, and you want to try to keep it as straight as possible, but if you can't do it perfect, that's all right. We're just gonna simply go over and just cut all the noodles, just like that. All right, fantastic. And now you're just gonna grab the ends and then just pull them apart just like that, and you get these beautiful noodles. I personally, even whenever I use the pasta maker, there's times that I'll still cut them like this, especially whenever I'm cooking with people, just because it's more fun and it's kind of more personalized. And so I enjoy it a lot more. And if you don't use enough flour though, then it will stick together and it will kind of be a nightmare. But look at those beautiful noodles, just like that. So we can just go ahead and mix all those together. And it sounds like my water is just about ready, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut the video and see you over at the cooktop. All right, so once you've got your water boiling, we're gonna go ahead and add the pasta into it and give that a stir so that it does not start to stick together. We can go ahead and add the salt to our water as well. Just like that. And fresh pasta only cooks for 90 seconds. So you'll want to make sure not to walk away for too long. And so you just kind of want to keep on stirring it. All right, so it's been about 90 seconds. And so we can go ahead and taste one of the noodles and see if we like it. All right, it's pretty good. We'll let it go for a moment longer. All right, that's probably done now. And so now I'm just gonna carry this over to the sink and drain the water out of it. So now all of the water is drained out. And while the noodles are still hot, I'm just gonna put some butter in there and just mix that around and let the butter melt. Get all into those noodles. And I used about a tablespoon of butter. And then we're just gonna use a little bit of basil pesto. A little bit goes a really long way. So even just one spoonful will probably be enough. It really is just to add a little bit of flavor to it. Then we can add some salt and pepper into it. That also makes it really good. All right, our butter is almost melted. Here's the pepper. All right, and there you have it. I'll go ahead and put that in a bowl and it's ready to serve. And there you have it. Fresh homemade pasta. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe so that you can see more videos. Leave a thumbs up, that way I know what kind of content you enjoy watching. And make sure not to forget the salt and pepper in the pasta. It does make a very big difference. And people are gonna absolutely love it if you make this when they come over for dinner or with friends, family, whatever. All right, well, thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see y'all next time.